My name is Chloe Cole, and I flew out here all the way from California. So, for those of you who don't know me, I am a former transgender kid. I'm biologically female, but throughout a good portion of my adolescence, I identified as male. I started by socially transitioning at 12, meaning I cut my hair shorter, started buying boys' clothing, and asked my family to refer to me by a new name that I chose. From the looks of it, you could probably tell that it didn't work out. No. A lot of you must be wondering, how does this happen? What led up to this? Well, there's several factors that make our youth quite vulnerable. I actually had a relatively normal early childhood. I had interests that were typical of a girl my age. I loved pink, purple, and blue, skirts, dresses, necklaces, dolls, and I also liked drawings, video games, and playing in the dirt or with my older brother's Legos or Nerf guns or toy trucks. As I got older, I started to associate with and relate more to boys, and I found it more and more difficult to connect with or even understand other girls my age. I started puberty at roughly 9 years old, so from a very young age, I dealt with both my peers and adults making uncomfortable or even hurtful comments on my developing body. I moved neighborhoods before entering middle school, and I turned to the internet because I had so few friends in person. Little did I know that as soon as I made my first Instagram account at 11, I would immediately be bombarded with trans-identifying kids, unachievable body standards, and even softcore porn. I never stood a chance because that was just the beginning. Postmodern feminism taught me that throughout all of human history, women have been suppressed and oppressed, and still are to this day. Today's intersectional feminism has very little to do with women's rights. It has devolved into infringing upon the rights of others, while reducing women to sex objects in a costume that men can wear when they want to taste the rainbow. It is clear why I despise the idea of growing from a girl into a woman. But as a kid, I couldn't reason properly or introspect well enough to understand why I felt this way. I fell victim to the idea that I was actually a boy trapped within a girl's body, and I began to present myself in a way that felt more consistent with my so-called gender identity. I came out to my parents with a letter that I left on the table, asking them to refer to me by the name Leo and call me their son. They wanted to support me, but they were at a loss of what to do for me. And so they turned to the help of healthcare professionals, who went on to coerce them into giving up their role as parents and letting me do as I pleased. We had no idea these so-called doctors and therapists were just butchers and liars. They told my parents that it was a life or death choice, and if they chose not to accept me as their son, they would certainly end up with a dead daughter. I thought that by starting cross-sex hormones, my body would become more consistent with my real gender identity. The only person to question this, other than my initially reluctant parents, was an endocrinologist who refused to medicalize me because he was wary of how it could affect my brain development. He was the only doctor I saw who didn't immediately affirm my identity and choices, and I wouldn't be surprised if he eventually resigned or was fired for safeguarding younger patients. My gender specialist expressed frustration and immediately referred me to another endocrinologist who was quick to give me consent forms for puberty-blocking medication and injectable testosterone. I remember her asking my 13-year-old self, "Are you aware you may experience atrophy of some reproductive organs? Are you aware that this may affect your ability to have children in the future?" It didn't matter what she told me. I did not have the mental faculties at 13 years old to be able to make an informed decision that would permanently impact my overall health and stunt my development. Neither did I at 15 when I sought to remove my breasts. After 2 uncomfortable years of binding my breasts in the world with a compression device called a breast binder, I wanted a way out. I wanted to stop wearing this binder while going on runs, swimming, or walking home from school in 100-degree weather. I wanted to look more like boys my age, and most importantly, I wanted to avoid the sexual attention that came with having a visibly feminine chest. I was groped at school, in a classroom, a place where I thought I would be safe. That was the final straw. I was afraid of being sexually assaulted again. I wanted this part of my body gone. And now it is, and it will be that way for the rest of my life because I was allowed to make an adult decision as a traumatized 15-year-old. The next question is, just how often does this happen? Conservatives in the past have written the trans movement off as a circus act that does not warrant meaningful political discussion. Many on the right have been made aware of the trans kids epidemic and indoctrination in our schools only as of this year. Trans rights activists often outright deny that children diagnosed with gender dysphoria are ever medicalized. But when they're presented with evidence that it does in fact happen, they attempt to justify it. They'll go back on their statements and then say that it's actually a good thing. And to deny children of these barbaric treatments is to deny them of life-saving health care. These euphemisms are common, and they downplay the reality of medical transition. Some say that transition regret is incredibly rare, and that the reason that transgender individuals detransition is almost always due to external factors such as social pressures or low income. This could not be any more false. A new detransitioner, often a minor, reaches out to me on nearly a daily basis. This is an epidemic. I see detransitioners express their regret online and get bombed with hatred by trans activists who have millions of followers. They need to silence any dissent in order to maintain the carefully constructed narrative. As soon as I even expressed regret, I was met with hatred by the same people who encouraged and celebrated every milestone in my transition. I was told that I was a nuisance at best and a harmful force to other real transgender people at worst, just for admitting my mistake. They said to me that I was only a spoiled brat who manipulated and hurt my parents and family. They said that I didn't deserve to go on testosterone or undergo mastectomy. Now, that part is true, because I deserved so much better. Children with gender dysphoria deserve so much better. They deserve adults who love and care for them when the world is preying on them. They deserve to just be kids. As somebody who knows this process well, I feel called to educate parents on the harms that are being cast on their children. Harms that ultimately led to the mutilation of my own body. If I can reach even one child with my story and change the trajectory of their life, I would consider my mission successful. In closing, we must run, not walk to the places and people that need to hear this cry from the most vulnerable. End child mutilation. Thank you. Thank you so much.